In my earlier videos, when I would string a Prince tennis racket with O ports on the side of it, with a two-piece 50-50 method, I would string all of the top crosses, then come back and string all of the bottom crosses. I've since talked to Prince, and they told me that I should string 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, keep alternating back and forth until I've got all the top done and the bottom done, just like you're stringing the mains, to where you're trying to equalize pressure. This actually puts a little bit less stress, according to Prince, on the tennis racket while you're stringing it than going from the top to the bottom of the racket. What I've done now is I've ran in the 2 center crosses. This is the 9th and the 10th cross. I'm going to use a modified Yusuke method, the same way I start my main strings, to start my crosses. I'm going to pull tension on both strings at the same time. Okay? I've got a little piece of a business card that I'm going to use, and I'm going to put that on my string because the outside of my frame here is just paint. I'm going to use that business card to protect my frame. And I put a starting clamp right up against the frame. Then I'm going to clamp that same string with a machine clamp. Alright, now that I've got some tension on this string, I'm going to pull tension on the 10th string, and I'm going to clamp it with my machine clamp. Now I'm going to pull my 10th string again. I think I said this was the 10th. This is actually the 9th cross. This is the 10th cross. I'm going to pull the 10th cross again and tighten up my starting clamp. Now I'm going to pull the 8th cross. Now, because this starting clamp is holding this 10th cross, I can move this clamp up to this 8th string. Now, because this clamp is holding the 8th string, I can remove this clamp from my 9th cross. I'm going to pull my 10th cross, remove my starting clamp and my little business card, and move my clamp down to that string. Now I've got a little bit of a problem because I can't remove this clamp because that's what's holding the top portion of my crosses. I can't remove this clamp because that's holding the bottom portion of my crosses. This clamp will only work on this side of the frame. If I had flying clamps where I could move it from one side to the other, that would be fine. Then I could move these clamps back and forth, use one for the top and one for the bottom. If I had glide bar clamps where I could slide the clamp all the way back and forth, I could pull tension on this string and move this clamp over to here. But with fixed swivel clamps like I have, this clamp must stay on this side of the frame. So now what I need to do is I've got 2 strings tensioned on the top, but only 1 string tensioned on the bottom. I'm now going to pull my 11th cross, and I need some way of holding it. Okay, now that I've got it tensioned, I'm going to use a flying clamp. I'll use that to clamp those 2 strings together. Now that frees up this clamp. So now that I've got 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, I'll switch back to the top. Now that I'm on the top again, I can pull tension on this cross, move this clamp up, I pull tension on one more cross before I'm going to switch down to the bottom of the racket. Now, because I'm using a flying clamp, I can remove this clamp because my tensioner is holding tension on these strings. Clamp these 2 strings together for 1 cross on the bottom portion of the racket. Then pull tension on another cross and move my flying clamp over for the second cross on the bottom of the racket. Now I can switch back up to the top half of my racket and do 2 more crosses up here. Now I can go down to the bottom half of the racket and do 2 more crosses down there. Now I can switch back to the top half of the racket, but what's starting to happen now is my crosses are spreading out a little bit further and further. I've got 3 more crosses to string down in the bottom of the racket and 3 more crosses to string in the top of the racket because I've got an 18 cross racket. So what I'm going to do, rather than doing 2 crosses up here, 2 crosses here, then 1 and 1, is I'm going to string all 3 of these crosses using my fixed clamp. Then I'll go down to the bottom of the racket and string all 3 of the crosses at the bottom of the racket using my fixed clamps down there and not use this flying clamp anymore, because this is a very, very narrow flying clamp.